This is Lucky's Aggression Minicamp. The purpose of the Aggression Minicamp is to put the framework in place that will enable Lucky's owners to continue his aggression training safely at home, as well as educate them on how to do so. You are going to want to have Lucky sit before entering and exiting vehicles, doors, and his crate. It's to sit until released with the Go Ahead command. It's very important that you stay on your toes with him. Don't allow pulling in any direction. Don't allow him to get too far in front or behind. Keeping him in a perfect heel right by your side is going to ensure the security of yours and people around you. He is displaying very, very severe aggression towards every person or animal we pass. I'm remedying this by telling him no prior to passing the person or the animal. He is listening flawlessly to me when I tell him no. However, I'm not sure he will immediately have the same response to you, so it's very important that you remain consistent with the corrections. So as soon as you see his ears go forward and that he has seen the person or the animal, that's your time to go ahead and correct him. What you just saw there was a demonstration of him not being told no prior to the person passing. When that happens, he acts how he wants to, which is going towards to bite the person or the animal. It's very important to give a sharp, quick collar correction and tell him no when he is looking at you and away from the thing that he was focused on originally. That is your time to click and treat. What you're trying to do is you're trying to build value in him looking at you, as opposed to value in being able to go and bite what he is wanting to bite. It's very important that you continue to reward his focus on you for the next at least 6 months. He is going to need daily walks like this for at least the next 2 weeks. If you do continue to do this and refer back to the video to see how and when to do the proper corrections, as well as staying in contact with me, you will be able to see full recovery from this issue. This is the underlying issue that is causing all of the problems you're seeing. Any of his mouthing, any of his going towards you and nipping, that's all going to be resolved by having him respect you in a public area such as this. Notice how I continue correcting with small corrections until he looks at me. I don't want to pull and hold on the prong collar ever. The prong collar is meant to issue a correction that simulates a dominant dog bite. We want to essentially bite his neck as fast as he would bite our hands in a dominant manner. We are never to bite and hold. Only bad dogs bite and hold. We want to give him a correction, and we want him to know the correction came from us. So what we're doing is we're correcting while we're making a sound and telling him, look. So what we do is we issue the correction, we tell him no. We issue a correction, and then we tell him look. And then we continue to correct until he gives us eye contact. We want to see that eye contact because I want to know 100% of the time that he's understanding that that prong correction and that feeling he is feeling is coming from me. That the people and the animals passing are not causing that correction to happen, but rather it is the consequence from me to him for reacting poorly. It is important that you work at a good, safe distance to begin with until you are confident. I do recommend using a leash like this. It's a caution do not pet leash. It's going to warn people that maybe your dog isn't quite so friendly, so it's going to keep them safe. He does tend to nip if you try to make him do what you want him to do. He has ceased doing that with me. He also hasn't been mouthing me during play. You want to make sure that you are not taking a walk any longer than you can give him your 100% undivided attention. You're going to have to be picking up on the same things that I do as a trainer. Opting for a 1-week program and wanting to do everything yourself is going to require you to learn a whole lot more than the average person with an aggressive dog. You're going to have to learn to pick up on his eyes, his ears, his posture. He does have a small patch of hair that will stand up on his back when he is extremely upset, but if you get to that point, you've gone way too far. You miss your opportunity to correct him. You want to correct the second you see those ears go forward. You issue the look command first to give him a chance to look at you and make the right decision. If he does not look at you, then correct him and get his focus onto you. Tell him no before you pass a person, telling him that no, you do not want him to react poorly. You want him to make a good decision. And when the good decision is made, immediately click and treat. If you are not immediately clicking and giving a high value food reward, he is not going to learn. He's just going to become bitter and not understand why it's more worth his time to listen to you than to bite the person. It's fun. Biting is fun to a lot of dogs. You are wanting to outweigh the amount of fun he's having from getting someone to back off and run away from him by offering him a food reward. You need him to value you and your opinion and what you want him to do over the amount of fun he's going to have. You can also notice when he's in a mood that he is feeling stressed and wanting to have a prey drive reaction or an aggressive reaction, or even a fear aggressive reaction, by watching his bottom jaw. He will not pant, but rather he quivers a bit. If he's doing this, you know you really, really, really need to be alert. With time and in less populated areas, such as really anywhere except for downtown where you're constantly passing people, so a nice quiet street, you're going to be able to get a good baseline on him. You're going to be able to see what he looks like when he's calm. Additionally, walking him in the backyard, walking him at home. Those are also things that you can do to experience walking him while he is calm as well, and to get used to things on your end before taking him out and dealing with him, where you have to be giving him undivided attention and perfect corrections as well as treats. Timing is everything with this. A correction a half a second too late or a treat a half a second too late is going to make or break the situation, because he is thinking very quickly. He's making rash decisions, and you need to be in there with corrections and treats instantly, because as soon as his brain has made that connection, he's going to either fail or succeed depending on when those treats and corrections were given. I had spoken with you a little previously about keeping him leashed in the house. I do believe this is absolutely 100% necessary. He still was very unwilling when he came to us to sit and wait for food, so we've been working with that as well. He has to sit and wait for food until released with go ahead. There isn't an option for him. He really needs those manners to continue at home to gain respect for you. Having a leash and collar on him is an easy way for you to control him, because, if a child runs past, you're going to need to intervene in that situation. He is not to put teeth to skin ever. It's not funny and it's not playing when you go to grab him or move him and he turns around and puts his mouth on you. He is being aggressive. That is not what you want to see. And anything done like that when he's calm is going to escalate tenfold when you add something like prey drive or you add something like fear. So his natural tendencies to bite are just going to escalate. So with him mouthing and biting you at home when he's nice and calm, when you get out or he has a prey drive reaction, so something's pulled away from him, he is going to bite far, far harder. So you need to make any form of tooth to skin contact not even an option for him at any point in his day. What I did was I videoed the entire session of us walking downtown. This is one entire training session that I did with your dog. This is to show you the things that you are going to have to continue, because I truly believe that the most important thing in his case and your case is for you to learn how to be a good trainer for him and how to be a good leader for him. And the way you can do this is to just have this entire video of what I did with your dog so that you can imitate it, and you're free to ask any questions to me at any point, even off into the future. If you're in the middle of a walk and you have some questions, feel free to contact me and ask your questions so I can answer them for you. If you do end up encountering a situation like this, so where there is a dog in the window and he is reacting very poorly, see, I'm not making hard corrections with the collar. I'm making very quick ones and releasing. I'm not hurting the dog. I don't want to hurt the dog. I don't want to make him feel trapped. You see, also, I'm not pulling him away from that situation. I'm correcting him and directing his focus to me. What this is doing is it's giving him plenty opportunities to continue making that same mistake. And he's also having the opportunity to make the right decision. I want to give him the freedom to make mistakes, and then I want to reward it when he makes the right decision. Because just pulling him away from the situation or forcing his body into the position that I want is not creating change. It's not making him change a behavior. We have to let him make the right decision. We can't just force him to do whatever we want. What you're watching me do right now is I'm having him sit for a bit. He was sitting for a few minutes prior to that as well. What that does is it gives me the opportunity to get him to do what I want him to do. So I was telling him to sit. Why? To get his focus on me. If he rose from that sit position, then what I did was I placed him back into the sit position. I did not force his body there. I told him to sit again, and I corrected if he did not sit. I also gave him a click and a treat for any time he gave me direct eye contact, whether I asked for it or he did it on his own. Also, it is very important to only give treats how you want him to be walking. So if you give him treats out in the front of you, that's building value in him cutting in front of you while walking on the leash. You want to give him treats towards the side of you in the heel position. That is building value in being beside you. You never ever ever want a dog that cuts in front of you or darts between your legs. It's a hazard for both you and your dog. And one thing that's very important to remember about corrections, the most important thing is you notice how I am pulling and releasing, pulling and releasing. They're very, very quick, very sharp corrections. They're not very hard corrections. Never pull and hold, ever. This is just going to frustrate your dog. You're telling him no in a way that is breaking through that blind stare he has at whatever person or animal he is trying to bite. If he does not respond to no, that's a physical way of us telling him no. We don't want it to be any more than that. We don't want him to feel trapped or threatened or in pain. It is also very, very important that we use the very lowest correction that he will listen to. So the lightest collar correction that he is willing to listen to is the collar correction you will want to use. Throughout a walk, this is going to change. So what you saw before was the very beginning of our walk. I was having to give him a very large correction. Most of the dogs I work with don't require any correction at all. He was very, very determined to bite something. Anything, really. And so he was going forward and would not listen to my verbal commands, nor my small collar cues, nor my small corrections. And that is another thing that you're going to have to learn through trial and error and working with your dog and studying this video. Please don't just watch this once. Please watch this multiple times. Like I've said, I have given you access to an entire lesson that I did with your dog. This is one whole session of me working with your dog downtown. It's not just bits and pieces. It's everything that I did working with your dog in hopes that you do successfully continue with his training, because this is a lot of severe behavior that you're dealing with, and it's going to be very hard for you to deal with. So the things I want from you is I want you to make sure he's not the center of attention for a few days. Feed, water, walk, do training walks, come back inside, and he goes down for bed, and you go on about your day. Don't have him unattended with children. I really don't think it's a good idea for him to be unattended with children at any point, just judging from the aggressive behaviors I've seen in him. If he does set his mind to do something, it is very, very hard to change his mind and have him do something better instead. And if you're unable to watch him, I would not say to have him around children. One thing I do recommend you do is that you do get a baby gate so that he's not in a crate for a prolonged amount of time, because if he doesn't get enough exercise, he doesn't get his energy out, it's just going to make the problem worse. I also added a couple of impulse control exercises that you can do with him. Those include playing with a rope. I do recommend you get a long rope because it's going to keep your fingers from getting bitten. I think the one I used was about 3 or 4 feet long. And I did lift it up and I let him jump and bite it. That's something that we know he really loves to do. So we want to work on teaching him to control that. So what I do is I lift the rope up and I tell him to leave it. If he doesn't leave it, I simply lift the rope out of his reach. If he does successfully leave it and he waits patiently for even just a half a second, I say, go ahead. And then at that point, he can jump, get the rope, pull it, tug, bite, growl, have a good time. And then when I say drop it, he is to drop it immediately. If not, I either issue a collar correction, followed immediately. When he drops it from the collar correction, I immediately follow it with a treat reward. Or I tell him no, followed by a treat reward when he drops it. Or a lot of the time I have success if I just put constant tension on the toy and gently put my hand under the dog's mouth. However, I typically don't recommend owners to do that because it does run the risk of you getting bitten if your dog's in a biting, playing mood. He did overcome a lot of fears. He was very frightened of things like storm drains. He is gaining a lot of focus and a lot of trust in whoever has the leash. I walked him as well as Ryan, my other trainer, had also walked him. And what that did was that helped him respond to a male and a female under a variety of situations. Probably you want to aim for about 2 15-minute walks a day for now to get him the amount of training that he needs, as well as a little bit of impulse control training throughout the day. Here's an example of him walking in a low distraction environment. He has learned a lot this week. He is heeling flawlessly on leash. Notice I'm just using a slip lead in this video. Under low distraction, he has a beautiful heel and a lot of really beautiful focus. So this is going to be where I want you to start. I want you to start with him in an environment that is controllable and calm and quiet. While I did have a few wild animals running past, I didn't have a lot of people and I didn't have other dogs present at the time of this particular session. What I'm doing now in the impulse control sessions is I have his leash attached to something that will not move. You can do this yourself with a regular collar. What this is enabling me to do is simply back away if I have not said go ahead and he goes for the toy. What I'm doing is I'm taunting him with the toy and telling him to leave it. Watch him use his impulse control until I say, go ahead, and then he is free to jump and bite the rope. Notice how he really wants it, but he is being respectful and waiting until I release him, and then he gets the toy. And you can see my corrections. If I say drop it and he doesn't drop it, then I pull slightly on the leash, and I had great success with him dropping it with just a little bit of collar pressure. And he really loves to tug. This is a great outlet for that drive that he has. I recommend that you do this at least once a day with him. Here's an example of some of our earlier training sessions. You notice I was just using a slip collar, and that is because this is the only type of collar that will prevent me from getting bitten by the dog and will prevent him from panicking. I had to wait until he trusted me and until he understood that the prong collar was coming from me and not everything else before I used that collar. That is a lot of the reason that why some training aids get very, very bad names. Notice how he's flailing and moving. He's also snorting and breathing heavily. He did not even want to walk at all that day. It took a very, very long time to get him to the point that he is right now, to where he is actually functional enough to go downtown. Downtown is very stressful for dogs. That's where I take all dogs to really, really test and push the limits of their nerves. And after all of this and after all of this fighting, now he is happy to walk beside me, to look at me, and he's even responding to the word no when he wants to bite something. He's even respecting my opinion enough to do what I say over what he wants to do. Continue working with him, continue working with the prong collar, and I really do look forward to hearing all of the progress and all of the wonderful things he and you all have accomplished together. And I look forward to him being reintroduced into the family and loved by kids everywhere.